comes a point where life stops giving you second chances and starts testing whether you're ready to live without one. The pain you feel, it isn't random. It's a summons, a silent call to rise from your own ashes without applause, without rescue, without softness. The world doesn't care how much you've suffered. It only kneels before those who turn suffering into strength. This isn't about healing anymore. It's about harnessing. You're not meant to be coddled. You're meant to be carved, because the man who learns to sit with pain, not flinch from it, not numb it, becomes something most people never will. Untouchable, unshakable, inevitable. Watch till the end, hit subscribe, and remember, the real change begins now. There's a silence that comes before life breaks you. It's not loud. It doesn't announce itself with screams. It arrives like a shadow, slow, creeping, familiar. One day you're walking through life half asleep. The next, you're on your knees wondering how the hell everything got so heavy. You start to feel the heat, not on your skin, in your chest. Disappointment, rejection, doubt. People turn. Promises break. Your own reflection becomes a stranger, and in those moments, your instinct will scream, escape, find comfort, numb the ache, protect what's left of you. But what no one tells you is this: that pain, the very thing you're running from, it's not here to destroy you, it's here to rebuild you. You are not designed to be soft. You are not made to be protected from the flame. You were built like steel, and steel is not forged in sunlight. It is beaten, bent, and born in fire. This is the part no one teaches you, because comfort feels good and safety sells. But behind every powerful man is a history of pain that nearly broke him, and a decision not to run from it. If you've been wondering why life has felt so unkind to you lately, maybe it's not cruelty, maybe it's craftsmanship. Maybe life saw potential in you, more than you ever saw in yourself, and so it began stripping away every excuse, every soft edge, every illusion. It doesn't feel noble, it doesn't look pretty, but if you are willing to stand in it, to stay in the fire when everything in you wants to escape, you'll begin to feel something strange rise inside you. A presence, a stillness, not numbness, not detachment, but power, real power, the kind that doesn't yell, the kind that doesn't beg, the kind that stands tall, even when no one's watching. You begin to realize that your scars aren't flaws, they're your blueprints. That pain didn't ruin you, it rebuilt you with sharper edges, heavier hands, and a quieter heart, a heart that doesn't panic in chaos, a mind that doesn't break under pressure. This is what the fire was always for. Not to burn you down, but to burn away what never belonged. Not to crush your spirit, but to awaken it. So if you're in the middle of the fire right now, don't beg for the exit. Stand up, look around, and understand. This is not the end of you. This is where the real you begins. There's a kind of deadness that creeps in long before you ever break. It doesn't scream. It doesn't leave bruises. It just settles quietly, like dust on your spirit. You stop feeling the highs. You stop fearing the lows. You just drift. And the worst part, no one notices. Because you still show up. You still nod. You still say all the right things when people ask how you're doing. I'm fine, but you're not fine. You're flat, disconnected, alive in body, but hollow in soul. And you've gotten good at hiding it, behind screens, behind scrolling, behind the kind of noise that drowns out the one thing you can't face yourself, not because you're weak, but because actually feeling means facing the ache you buried years ago, the disappointments you minimized, the rage you swallowed, the dreams you quietly let die because you convinced yourself they didn't matter anymore, but they did. They still do. The truth is, pain is not what's killing you. Numbness is. You think you've found peace by avoiding it, but what you've actually done is abandon yourself, piece by piece, day by day, until the man in the Mirror feels more like a memory than a presence. And here's the thing no one tells you. You can't selectively numb. You shut down one emotion. You shut down them all. So the laughter doesn't hit the same. The victories feel empty. The relationships become shallow rituals you go through just to keep up the appearance that everything's okay. But deep down, you know something's wrong. You know you weren't built to coast. You weren't made to feel nothing. You were made to burn, to bleed, to break and rebuild and live. Fully, fiercely, honestly. Not in survival mode, not as a ghost, but as a man fully awake. And that awakening doesn't come from comfort. It comes when you finally sit in the silence and let it sting. When you stop running, stop scrolling, and ask yourself the question you've been avoiding. What part of me have I silenced just to survive? Because the only way out of numbness is through it. You have to feel again, even if it terrifies you. Even if it shakes everything you thought you knew about yourself. Because in that trembling is where your soul starts speaking again. And when it does, you'll realize you were never fine. You were just quiet, buried, but never gone. And now, you're waking up. There's a moment you stop believing your own excuses. Not because someone called you out. Not because the world finally collapsed. But because you catch yourself alone, and you can't ignore what you see anymore. The unfinished work, the silent days, the way your eyes avoid the mirror like it holds a truth you're not ready to face. You say you're waiting for the right time, but what you're really doing is hiding behind hope. And that's the most dangerous place a man can live, in the soft lie of someday. Because hope, without war, is just sedation. It feels good, it sounds noble, but it rots you. It keeps you spinning stories about the man you'll be one day, while your habits carve out the man you've become. You don't need more hope. You need a fight, a private fight. The kind no one sees but you feel every morning when you wake up and realize you're not proud. Not of your routine. Not of your discipline. Not of the compromises you keep calling balance. That's where the real war begins. Not out there, not with them, in here, inside, where you finally decide that the version of you you've allowed to survive has to die. That's not poetic, it's surgical, it's brutal, because discipline isn't some shiny virtue, it's blood in the mouth. It's showing up when the mood is gone. It's dragging yourself out of bed when the voices in your head say you've already failed. It's saying no, not to the world, but to the weak part of you that's been running the show for too long. You think change feels inspiring. It doesn't. It feels like war, a quiet, relentless war you fight in silence while no one's cheering. No applause, no affirmations. Just the sound of your own footsteps, showing up again, and again, and again, until something shifts. Not outside, inside. You look in the mirror, and for the first time in a long time, you don't feel ashamed. You don't flinch, because you know what it costs to get here. And it didn't come from dreaming. It came from killing. Killing every excuse, every escape, every soft part of you that begged for comfort. That's what builds a man, not hope, war. And if you're tired of being stuck, don't look up, look in. The enemy is already inside, and it's time you stopped negotiating with him. There comes a point where you stop answering the phone. Not out of bitterness, not out of hate, but because something in you finally breaks, or maybe wakes up, and you realize you've been bleeding yourself dry for people who never planned to stop taking. You start pulling back, quietly, intentionally, and that's when they say it. You've changed. You're cold now, but they don't see what led you here. They don't see the nights you swallowed your truth to keep, the peace, the fake laughs, the polite nods, the constant internal battles just to maintain what looked normal. They never see that part. They only notice the silence, not the years that built it, but you do. You remember every time you gave more than you had, every time you tolerated disrespect in the name of love, in the name of loyalty, in the name of being the bigger person. And one day, something in you stops bending. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started choosing what's worth caring about. That's the cold they talk about. But here's the truth they'll never admit. Cold isn't a curse. It's control. It's finally understanding that your energy is a currency, and you've been handing it out like it had no cost. You start calculating differently. You don't explain yourself to people who only listen to respond. You don't chase closure from those who never gave you clarity in the first place. You begin to move like a man who has nothing to prove. Not angry, not arrogant, just awake. And with that awakening comes a silence that's not empty, it's clean. A detachment that's not cruel, it's calculated. You start creating space between you and the chaos. Not to escape life, but to build one that doesn't require performance, approval, or apology. They'll call it heartless. But you'll know the truth. This version of you didn't kill your soul. It saved it. Because cold isn't the absence of emotion. It's the refusal to be ruled by it. It's not about punishing others. It's about protecting yourself from the weight of constant compromise. And when you finally stop explaining, stop softening your edge just to make others comfortable, you feel something powerful settle in your chest. Not numbness, not pride, peace. Not because everything is fine, but because you're finally done pretending, done bleeding, done begging. Cold isn't who you've become, it's what you chose, so you could finally become yourself. There's a moment, and you know it well, when you look at your life and ask the question that lives in every scar. Why me? Why did I get dealt this hand? Why did I have to carry the weight, face the loss, feel the betrayal? And when no answer comes, that silence starts to feel like cruelty. You start to believe you were marked, cursed, set apart for some punishment you don't even remember earning. But that's the lie. That's what the pain wants you to believe, that it's personal, that it means you were weak, forgotten, unworthy. But the truth is sharper. You weren't cursed. You were called. And everything that came for you, the heartbreak, the failure, the quiet breakdowns no one ever saw, it wasn't designed to punish you. It was built to prepare you. That's the part no one wants to admit, that suffering is the cost, the tax, the brutal, necessary price you pay to carry strength that doesn't collapse under pressure. You want depth, then you're going to be dropped into places most people run from. You want power? You'll first feel powerless. You want peace? You'll earn it by crawling through war. This isn't about romanticizing pain. This is about owning it. Because until you stop running from it, until you stop asking why me, you stay a victim to something that was meant to shape you. The world won't hand you a reason. You have to build one. You have to look at the wreckage and say, if I have to carry this, then I'll carry it with purpose. You don't need closure. You need clarity. Not on the past, but on the man you're becoming because of it. And once you flip that switch, everything changes. You stop waiting to be saved. You stop needing it to make sense. You stop expecting the pain to apologize. You just get to work. Because now you understand. The pain didn't come for you because you were weak. It came because you were strong enough to survive it. Strong enough to feel every blow, fall to your knees, and still stand up a different man. So don't resent the wait. Respect it. You weren't picked out for punishment. You were selected for pressure. Because pressure is how steel is made, and suffering. It was never meant to define you. It was only meant to refine you. There's a moment when the pain hits, and everything in you wants to fold. It doesn't matter how strong you thought you were. Pain doesn't knock. It breaks in, unexpected, uninvited. It takes your breath, then it takes your balance. And in that instant, that quiet, raw second, where no one is watching, you're left with a choice most men never see clearly. Do you let this break you into softness, or carve you into steel? See, pain has a strange power. It doesn't just hurt, it shapes. And what it shapes depends on what you hand it. Most people, and maybe this used to be you, they hand it excuses. They wrap their pain in victimhood and call it identity. They let it soften their spine, blur their edges, dim their fire. And it's not because they're weak. It's because they were taught to see pain as a punishment. But what if pain wasn't the enemy? What if it was the blade, and your life was the forge? Then pain isn't what ruins you. It's what sharpens you. It doesn't take your power. It focuses it. If, and only if, you stop looking for a way out and start looking for a way in. Because pain doesn't ask for permission, but it does wait for instruction. It'll either become the reason you crumble or the reason you rise with precision. That's your decision, no one else's. You want to be dangerous. Learn how to bleed without whining. Learn how to sit with it, the betrayal, the regret, the failure, and not turn it into a story where you're the victim. Turn it into silence. Then turn that silence into discipline. Because the most focused men you'll ever meet aren't the ones who had easy paths. They're the ones who got tired of suffering for nothing. They got hit. They got humiliated. They got cracked open. And they said, fine, if this pain is here, I'll use it. And that's where everything changed. They stopped telling the world how much it hurt. They started letting the pain become a compass, a cutting tool, a kind of hunger you can't fake. And when you do that, when you really commit to sharpening instead of softening, you stop wasting time explaining yourself. You stop leaking energy, trying to be understood, because now you're clean. Now, you're not running from the fire. You are the fire. So the next time the pain comes, and it will, don't just survive it. Don't shrink into a version of yourself that feels safer. Stand there, grit your teeth, and sharpen. There's a moment when the noise fades, and the silence feels heavier than any crowd ever could. You look around, and there's no one checking in, no one asking how you're doing, no one filling the space with distractions, with comfort, with noise. And suddenly, the truth creeps in. You're alone. Not physically, spiritually. And if you're like most people, that truth hits like a punishment. You start to think something's wrong with you, that maybe you're broken, that maybe no one cares. Because somewhere along the way, you were taught that silence means exile, that being alone means being forgotten. But it doesn't. That's a lie, a loud one. And it's cost more men their power than failure ever could. Because solitude, it's not isolation, it's sovereignty. The men who fear being alone are ruled by the world. They chase validation, like oxygen. They need constant affirmation to feel like they matter. They move based on noise, not direction, and then wonder why they always feel lost. But the man who learns to sit fully, fiercely, with himself, he becomes something else entirely. Because when the world goes quiet, you finally get loud. Your truth, your darkness, your guilt, your unspoken dreams and unresolved shame, they all rise in that silence like ghosts you've buried with distraction. And here's the thing, most people run. They turn on a screen, they call someone, they numb. But if you stay, if you sit in it, feel all of it without trying to fix it, explain it, escape it, that's where the shift begins. You start to realize you're not broken, you're just unmet by yourself. Solitude is where you meet the version of you that's been drowned out by noise, the version that doesn't need applause to know his value, the one who doesn't beg the world to tell him who he is, because he already knows. That's what real sovereignty is, not ruling others, ruling yourself. Knowing what to do without needing consensus. Feeling pain without turning it into a performance. Being still and unshaken. So if you're in that place now, the quiet, the alone, the no one texting back kind of silence, good. Don't rush out of it. Don't fill it. Because this isn't exile. This is elevation. This is where the real you begins to rise. Not louder, but deeper. And when you come out of that place, and you will, you won't need noise anymore. Because now, you walk like a man who's already heard everything he needed to hear from within. There's a point where the waiting becomes unbearable. You've tried to be patient. You've dropped enough hints. You've sent out enough signals in your voice, in your silence, in your broken body language, and still, nothing. No cavalry, no savior, no one reaching down to pull you out. You stare into that silence long enough, and something inside you starts to crack. Not all at once, slowly, like a rope snapping fiber by fiber. You feel it. No one is coming. Not the woman you hoped would understand you. Not the friends who say they're there if you need anything. Not even the higher power you kept whispering to when the lights were off and your hands were shaking. It's one of the darkest realizations you'll ever have. And if you're not careful, it'll break you. It'll convince you that since no one's coming, you must not matter. But that's the lie. The real truth is this. No one is coming, and that is your advantage. Because now, you stop waiting. You stop handing out pieces of your power hoping someone else will carry the weight you were born to lift. You stop assuming someone out there has the answer you've been avoiding inside yourself. You've been conditioned to think rescue is noble. That one day, if you're just good enough, loyal enough, patient enough, someone will step in and make it all make sense. But what if they never do? What if you are the one who was always supposed to rise? Not with applause, not with permission, but alone, quietly, with trembling hands and a locked jaw. Because that's where men are forged, not in comfort, not in company, but in responsibility. The moment you stop saying, "Why hasn't anyone helped me?" and start saying, "This is mine to fix," that's the moment helplessness dies. That's when you stop being the victim of your story and start becoming the author. No one's coming to validate your pain. No one's coming to undo your past. No one's coming to carry your future. And yet, in that bleakness, something strange happens. You feel your spine start to straighten, your eyes sharpen. You start speaking less, but meaning more. You don't rise with hope. You rise with intention. That's what makes you dangerous. Not because you were saved, but because you stopped needing to be. And from that moment forward, every step you take is yours. Not owed, not given, earned. You didn't get rescued. You got reborn. There's a point where pain stops screaming and starts whispering. At first, it all feels loud. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the regret. It punches you in the gut, keeps you awake at night, fills your chest with a kind of pressure. No, words can ease. You think you're breaking, but what's really happening is this. You're being initiated. This world doesn't hand you power because you want it. It tests you, cuts you, leaves you bleeding in silence to see what you'll do next. And most people, they panic, they beg, they lash out, they chase what hurt them. But not you. You sat in it. You let the silence stretch. You didn't rush to fix it, to explain it, to numb it. Because somewhere in that stillness, you felt it, the code. Not something you read in a book, not something passed down in words. It's written in scars, etched into your backbone after nights no one saw. Moments when you wanted to scream, but didn't. When you wanted to run, but stayed. When you wanted to break, and instead, you decided. The code is simple. You stop reacting. You start observing. You stop chasing. You start moving differently. You don't try to be cold. You become calm. Not because you're numb, but because you've been through the fire. And now you know what burns is usually not worth touching. This isn't about being heartless. It's about protecting the heart that no one else ever protected. You stop explaining yourself. You stop asking for permission. And you start crafting yourself. Silently, relentlessly. Like a sculptor with shaking hands and bloody knuckles, who refuses to stop until the figure standing in the mirror matches the man he knows he was meant to be. That's what separates the masters from the masses. Not fame, not money, not words, but the inner temperature, the calm cold that says, I don't need you to understand, I understand myself. So when they betray you, you nod. When life hits, you absorb. When love walks away, you stay standing. Because you're not built to beg, you're built to become. And the men who walk that path, they don't need applause. They don't need to be seen. They just walk into the storm, eyes forward, while the rest keep screaming at the sky. They don't speak the code, they live it.